All right, let's get right to it. We need to talk about a massive signal coming out of the Middle East, one that's flipping decades of strategic assumptions on their head. If you think you know the US-Saudi relationship, well, it's time for a major update.
So, when the recent crisis kicked off, the assumption in Washington, on Wall Street, everywhere, was pretty clear. Saudi Arabia would get in line. They'd support the US-Israeli coalition, just like they always have. I mean, that's been the playbook for as long as anyone can remember. But that's not what happened. Not even close. Riyadh closed its airspace. And this wasn't just a minor inconvenience. It was a powerful political message. A shock, really. And it changes the calculus for anyone with interest in the region.
And let me be really clear here, the decision to deny overflight access was huge. This wasn't just about making life difficult for military planners, though it certainly did that. Symbolically, Saudi airspace is probably the most politically sensitive real estate in the entire region. Giving a green light to military strikes would have been a massive stamp of approval. So denying them, well, that was an equally powerful rejection. The source material puts it perfectly. It's a civilization-level statement, and honestly, that's no exaggeration.
So that begs the big question, right? Why? What on earth is driving such a dramatic break from decades of foreign policy? Let's dig into the key factors, because they tell us everything about the new reality.
It really boils down to 5 core drivers. And if you want to recalibrate your strategy and get the region right for the coming decade, you absolutely have to understand these 5 things.
The first driver was immediate, and it was personal. We're talking about direct retaliation. Iranian missiles actually hit Saudi Arabia. They targeted the capital, Riyadh. All of a sudden, this conflict wasn't some abstract problem happening somewhere else. Just imagine for a second you're Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Your capital city is taking fire in a war you didn't even start. Your entire risk assessment changes in that exact moment.
Which brings us right to the second driver. And honestly, for anyone with skin in the game, for anyone with investment interests, this is probably the most important one of all. It's all about protecting a multi-trillion-dollar economic transformation.
Yeah, I'm talking about Vision 2030. This isn't just some policy paper. It's a colossal project designed to pivot the entire Saudi economy away from oil. We're talking about futuristic cities like Neom, building a massive tourism industry from scratch, and attracting a flood of foreign capital. Now, what's the one thing, the one absolute requirement that all of that needs to work? Stability. Regional stability. Every missile that flies, every spike in the price of oil, it puts that entire multi-trillion-dollar dream at risk. For Riyadh, the #1 priority is now stability, not getting dragged into somebody else's fight.
Driver number 3 is a really smart diplomatic hedge, and it's been in the works for years. You remember that China broker deal back in 2023, the one that got Saudi Arabia and Iran to restore relations? Well, that wasn't a fluke. That was a crystal-clear signal that Riyadh was diversifying its portfolio of allies, moving beyond its total reliance on Washington.
And of course, you can't talk about any of this without talking about China. That's our fourth driver. The economic reality on the ground has completely changed. Who's the biggest customer for Saudi oil these days? It's not the US anymore, not by a long shot. It's China. And what does Beijing want more than anything else in the Middle East? You guessed it, stability. They want the oil to keep flowing and the trade routes to stay open. In this latest crisis, Saudi Arabia's interests actually lined up way more with China's than they did with America's.
And finally, the 5th driver is personal. It's political. It's about legacy. You have to remember, MBS is a young leader. He could be on the throne for decades. He's thinking about how history will remember him. Being seen as America's client king in the middle of a brutal regional war, that's not a great look. But being the independent leader who shielded his nation's economic future from chaos, now that is legacy defining.
So, you add up all 5 of those drivers, you put them all together, and you're left with one single, unavoidable conclusion. The 70-year-old bargain that defined the entire US-Saudi relationship is over. It's broken. I mean, the old deal was simple. The US provided the security umbrella, and Saudi Arabia provided stable oil markets and strategic alignment. But the world has changed. The US is now a net oil exporter itself. It's just not dependent on Saudi oil like it used to be. And at the same time, Saudi Arabia has been busy building new partnerships, so it's not nearly as dependent on American protection. The result? A complete reset. The days of automatic alignment are gone. Now everything is up for negotiation, and Saudi Arabia is coming to the table with a very, very strong hand.
So if the old playbook's been thrown out, what does the new one look like? It's absolutely crucial to understand this.
This is not a simple pivot from Washington to Beijing. No, it's something much more sophisticated and much more impactful for global business.
The new doctrine is best described as strategic independence. So what does that actually mean? It means maintaining productive, useful relationships with everyone, the US, China, Russia, you name it, while being beholden to no one. If that sounds familiar, it should. As the source material points out, this is basically a Saudi version of the non-aligned playbook that India has run so successfully for decades. This is the new model.
So let's bring this all home. What does this actually mean for you? For your business planning, for your investments, for your entire outlook on regional stability for the next 5 to 10 years?
Okay, here are the key strategic takeaways. First, U.S. power and its options in the region have been seriously curtailed. Second, the Abraham Accords, which were supposed to be the bedrock for a new era of regional investment, are now on very shaky ground. And third, and this is the big one you need to internalize, Saudi Arabia is now a fully independent actor. You can't just assume their cooperation anymore. It has to be earned. It has to be persuaded. And that means you need to rethink your entire forecast for regional stability.
And that brings us to the final question, the one I really want you to take back to your next strategy meeting. Are your forecasts, are your risk models, are your investment plans for the entire region still based on an old, outdated assumption of Saudi alignment? Because that world, it just doesn't exist anymore.